Oh, they're all printed front.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're going to start with an invocation from Jeff Seger from the First Christian Church.
I'm going to read a short little verse, couple of verses from 1 Thessalonians. Now concerning love of the brothers and sisters, you do not need to have anyone write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another, and indeed you do love all the brothers and sisters, but we urge you, beloved, to do so more and more, to aspire to live quietly, to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we directed you, so that you may behave properly toward outsiders and be dependent on no one. Let us pray. Father God, as we begin the City Council meeting, be with all those here and even those who could not be here this evening. Give our leaders the wisdom and the discernment to make wise decisions to benefit the citizens of Rensselaer. Bless all those who do the work of this place and bless their loved ones too. Answer the prayers of their hearts and give them the peace that passes all understanding that only you can give. Keep them safe in their work and let them feel your presence and your peace. And it is in the holy name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shelby, will you go ahead and do the roll call, please?
Mayor Jeff Phillips, absent. Clerk Treasurer Shelby Keys, here. Council members Russ Overton.
Here.
Kevin Arnold.
Here.
Noah Weiser. Here. Jeff Rayburn. And Ernest Watson Jr.
Here.
City Attorney Todd Sammons.
Here.
Building Commissioner Jacob Hall.
Here.
Cemetery Caretaker Joe Eppinger.
Here.
Fire Chief Kenny Hahn.
Here.
Police Chief Matt Anderson, absent. Utility Office Manager Heather Smart. Here. Manager of Electric Operations Keith Malone.
Here.
Park Superintendent Heather Hall. Here. Street Water Sewer Sanitation Superintendent Bryce Black.
Here.
And Gas Superintendent Todd Wilson.
Here.
Okay, we have council, everyone has presented the minutes of the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No. Also, council had an executive session, and you reported the minutes from that as well. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? So we have a first and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This time, are there any, we allow time for citizen comments? Is there anyone that would like to speak? Yes.
Yeah, my name is Rob White. I live at 319 North Front Street.
Rob, could you come up here by the podium for us? Thank you. Oh, there is no microphone. Watch out. Should I take that?
That's okay.
Okay.
I just have a couple questions about code enforcement of different houses. We have 5 houses on our 2 blocks where I live. A couple of them seem to be abandoned. 2 or 3 of them look like they're about ready to fall down. And there's nothing being done about any of these houses down there. We got one right across from our street. It's kind of bringing down, I think, the value of our home, because you guys have dealt with this guy numerous times, trying to keep his house cleaned up and get the yard cleaned up and everything. And it's just a total wreck. And every time, you see him out there, and it's just the same thing all over again. He bugs his neighbor really bad about building another fence inside her fence, and there's just 2x4s holding his fence up, and it's just a big mess. And I just wondering what kind of enforcement you guys have to try to push to clean up our street down there. You guys did a heck of a job, getting the new sidewalks and drives and paving and everything on the street, and then turn around and let all these people just let their houses look like crap, basically. And I'm just wondering if there's anything can be done to straighten up some of this stuff.
Is that the house right across from where you live?
Pardon me?
Is that right across from where you live?
Yes.
And you're on Front Street?
Yes.
Talking about it? So there's 5 vacant houses on your block?
Not vacant, some of them are just look like they're about ready to fall
I
down.
got you.
Plus you got the old grocery store there, and I just heard one of the council members that is getting ready to be demoed before long anyway, so. But I'm amazed at how people just let how are they able to leave their houses go for as long as they have and nothing be done with them.
Yeah. Well, I know that's a priority for the mayor. He is not here, but I know that he's worked hard on trying to work on houses that are dilapidated or that need some help. And I don't know the situation of these property owners, and of course that could be a case-by-case basis. I do know that we have had some enforcement, I think, in the property that you're referring to. I don't know, since that was cleaned up last, what has happened since then.
Yeah, that's,
Jacob, would you like that?
I believe it was cleaned up last year, and the city went and did it themselves and billed the property owner for it. But I actually went down your block today to take some pictures of different properties there to start looking at enforcement at some of those other properties on your block as well. And I think you had mentioned about the R&M building.
Right.
I actually had just issued the demo permit for that today.
Great.
So we finally heard back from IDEM about that, and they gave the all clear. So
Okay.
that project will be moving forward, and hopefully we'll.
Well, even on that side of that road, there's a house or two right there. by the
Yes,
grocery
that's
store.
one of both of those two next to R&M I was looking at
Okay.
closer today.
Oh, great. Well, I just wanted to get my point of view kind of up there.
Yes, and we
let you guys
appreciate
know.
that, and as homeowners, we understand your concern for sure. So, yes, I mean, we will forward this to the mayor as well when he returns, and Jacob, if you could have a discussion with him and what we need to do from here, but thank you
Sounds
for
good.
bringing that to us.
Thanks for your
Thank you for
time.
putting,
You're welcome.
thank you for putting that on my radar.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment? No? Okay. So we're going to go ahead then and go into the public hearing. We're having a public hearing this evening for an additional appropriation. And do you want to?
Make the motion to close the hearing. I mean,
The
close
regular meeting?
the regular meeting
Yep.
Second.
Open the public hearing.
and open up the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion and Russ seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Shelby, would you present?
Thank you. This additional appropriation is for a total of $187,777 for the edit fund. This would be for a portion of our CCMG match. We didn't budget it because we weren't quite sure what our match total would be, so now that we know exactly what we need, we're looking to appropriate an additional amount to the budget for this year. The total that we need for CCMG is $400,262. We've got the rest in this year's current budget, just the $187,777 is what we would need to make our total match. If I would entertain any questions you may have, or Bryce could maybe answer some more if you had anything to ask.
We have the money in the bank.
Yep, we've got the money there, it wasn't budgeted, so this is the formal process we've got to go through.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to have a question or comment? Okay, if none, then if someone would like to make a motion to close the public hearing and open the regular meeting.
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to go into the agenda items. So first up, we have Resolution 13-2026, which is the additional appropriation.
And I believe since we just had the public hearing, you can make a motion on it, and there doesn't need to be a second reading of it.
It's a resolution.
Oh, a resolution.
It's a resolution,
Can I
yeah.
get all that? Yep. You
I'll
can
make
pass
that
it.
motion to approve resolution 1326.
Second.
Or in a second. So we have a first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Resolution 14-2026, a transfer of funds.
There is a transfer of funds or request for transfer of funds within Public Works and Safety for a total of $20,600 and a transfer in the Parks Department for $7,500, totaling $28,100 in the general fund.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept resolution 14-2022? Motion by Russ, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, number 3 on the agenda, we are going to postpone that to another meeting. Number 4 on the agenda, Bakertilly is going, Tyler with Bakertilly is going to present utility reports to us.
To spare you the looking through 300 pages, put together this presentation.
Thank you very much.
It's a great read, I promise. I want to read through the actual reports.
I did some of it. Still waiting.
All right, so my name is Tyler Coffel. I've kind of been working behind the scenes on the utilities for the last couple of years, and just here to go through the 2025 utility financial management reports, and to do that I put together a presentation. I do apologize, I printed them front and back on accident without noticing until it was already done, so just have to bear with me on that. But overall, on the executive summary on slide number 3, kind of gives you a snapshot of where all the utilities are. And overall, you'll see that the 5 utilities are in good financial standing currently. There are some anticipated future projects in both sewer and water that will require some rate attention in the future. Just kind of depends on the timing. We'll kind of get into that. Gas and electric are very strong cash-wise right now. And then sanitation, with their help of some of the civil funds on the trash truck purchase, is also in pretty good shape. So kind of give you a high-level overview of where things are. And then the key takeaways on the next page is kind of just summarizing the same kind of things. Sewer and water have future projects coming that may change some rates. And then gas, electric, and sanitation, there's no proposal for future rate adjustments. And that all utilities maintain fund balances above recommended reserves. So as I said, the cash position of all 5 utilities is currently very strong.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I need you to say this in front of people. That sewer and water rate increases because of things that we have to do in the future.
Yeah. So sewer is part of the long-term control plan that's enforced by IDEM. It's the final phase of the project. And then Bryce, I don't know if you have any comments on the water side, but I assume that those are absolutely necessary improvements that need to be made.
Yeah, Tyler, the water side of things is some water main that we know has been an issue in the past, as well as just trying to plan ahead for additional well in the future, and then creating a loop out to the interstate with the new tower out there. We're not able to completely fill it. Creating that loop would help us get there. But on the water side of things, outside of the water main that we know needs replaced, these are just trying to plan ahead type things. They're not dire needs.
Yeah, so as we'll kind of get into, the sewer side is pretty strictly required, but the water side, the timing is a little bit more up in the air. So we'll get into that in more detail here in a few minutes. Slide number 5 looks at payment in lieu of taxes and what our assumptions are for these reports. Essentially what we've done is we've assumed the maximum annual payment in lieu of tax for each of the 5 utility funds. So just to kind of give you some perspective, in 2025, the utilities paid $185,000 in payment in lieu of tax. The 2026 budget was $297,000, and the proposed pilot, which is the maximum pilot the utilities can pay, is just under $350,000. So those have all been built into the reports, and any potential rate increases are kind of reflected with that. So sewer and water are the 2 that I'm talking about, but they were relatively minor impacts on the rate increase needed. Any questions on pilot? this is becoming more and more of a focus as the impacts of SB1 become more known with the restrictions on civil funds. So I'll kind of jump into sewer here. All of these sections are kind of structured the same way, so it should be pretty easy to kind of follow along, but feel free to stop me if you have questions as we go along here. So sewer, looking at the cash position, you'll see that last year in 2024, I guess it's not last year, it's 2 years ago, you were actually under recommended reserves, but due to the rate increases that were adopted in place in 2025, you're now above those recommended reserves by about $492,000. So kind of just proving that the rate adjustments are working as they were intended to work. And that additional cushion that you have there allows you to do some capital projects that are on the capital plan. So overall, sewer's in a much better cash position than it was a year ago. Slide number 8, looking at the sewer capital plan. You'll see purple highlights, which are reflective of projects that are going to be paid for using existing bond funds, so the 2023 and the 2025 bonds. Those total about $507,000. Those were projects that were planning to be paid with cash on hand that are now going to be funded with existing bond funds. And then you'll see the large project, the 2027 bonds highlighted in yellow at $12,175,000. That is the final phase of your long-term control plan. The engineers and us are currently preparing a financial capabilities analysis. You guys passed that agreement several meetings ago, in hopes of extending that timeline with IDEM and the EPA to push that project out a little bit, because we know that your ratepayers have seen a substantial increase in bills over the last couple of years. So trying to push that project out as much as we can, but kind of at the grace of IDEM. So we'll see what the results of that analysis are, and then that'll kind of determine the path forward with the final phase of that project. Page 9 looks at your outstanding and proposed bonds. You'll see the outstanding bonds, your maximum annual debt service is $1.77 million. The additional 2027 bonds, you'll see kind of second column from the right, add about $550,000 of debt service a year. So, and that's with a wrap around the existing bonds. I don't want to get too deep into this because we're talking about a future project. But you'll see that the structure of those bonds makes the proposed bond year total level for the next 15 or so years. So that's kind of the structure of those bonds, but it does add about $550,000 of bond payments per year to the utility. So going to the next page, page 10, kind of what that means. The utility already has adopted a 23.5% adjustment for 2026 and a 12.7% adjustment for 2027 to support the existing debt obligations and the long-term control plan. The one thing that I do want to mention here is that the rate adjustment that was adopted for 26 and 27 was meant to pay for the final phase of the long-term control plan, but due to project costs coming in high for the previous phase in 2025, that is going to force likely some additional rate adjustments. So what we're proposing in here, and again, timing is up in the air on this, but additional rate adjustments of 10% in 2028 and 5% in 2029. And that is solely tied to the final phase of the long-term control plan. If that gets pushed out to 2028 or 2029, you can just bump that rate increase out because the current rate adjustment that's in place can pay for your current operations.
Tyler, if I can.
Yeah.
I want to add the current bond for the project that is going on currently. The money for the engineering for this phase is in that bond, so there's no need for an additional band or anything like that when this time does come. We have the funds to get the design work ready.
So you're saying the engineering for the future project is already, okay.
Yeah. So really all we're kind of waiting on at this point is IDEM and see if they adjust their schedule. And you're kind of at the mercy of them on when you have to get that project done. Hoping that they'll allow some flexibility there due to the rate concerns that you guys have seen. Any questions on sewer? Again, everything is far more detailed in the report, so if you even there's an executive summary on each of them on page 2 that kind of gives you a very high level of what happened last year and what's going to happen going forward. So, all right, moving on to water, starting on slide number 12. Your 2025 fund balances totaled $3.1 million, which exceeded your recommended reserves by $1.1 million. As you can see, the cash balances have slightly declined over the past couple of years, just driven by some capital spending that has occurred, but you can see you're still well above that recommended reserve line in each of the last 3 years. So overall, cash-wise, the water utility is very healthy. Slide 13 shows the capital plan. Again, the purple is your ongoing bond projects, the projects that you have construction money left over from. So you'll see you've got about $600,000 of those costs in 2026. That's kind of related to your lead service line project, as well as other outstanding bonds. But then in the yellow, you'll see that future project that Bryce was kind of talking about. There's water main replacements of $4 million, well number 9 for $2 million, and then a main down Buncombe to County Road 850 to create that loop for $3.5 million. So in total, adding in 20% contingency, it's about an $11.4 million bond issue. That's it's based on costs that were included in the asset management plan and subject to further engineering. It's just an estimate for this report. So we'll kind of rely on Bryce and the engineers to give us better numbers when they're ready to move forward with that project. Questions on that?
If I can, one more.
Yep.
In the purple, the ongoing bond projects, some of those dollars, we're earmarking and talking with Commonwealth to potentially use those dollars, those are remaining dollars from the water tower project, to create a PER for the water main replacement and then see if there's any favorable funding out there. So again, there will be no capital spending on the city's behalf or another band to get that engineered.
Slide 14 looks at your outstanding proposed bonds again. As you can see, the 2027 bonds increase your maximum annual debt service by about $545,000, so eerily similar to sewer. And again, we're wrapping those around your existing debt to create level debt service throughout the term of the loan. So timing, again, is up in the air, but that's kind of what that amortization looks like right now. So looking at the 5-year outlook on slide 15, the utility adopted rate increases of 8% in 2026 and 8% in 2027 to support current operations and the lead service line bonds that were issued earlier this year. And then additional rate increases of 15% in 2028 and 11% in 2029 are anticipated in the report. So that's if the utility issues those 11.5% bonds. And as of right now, we're assuming a 20-year loan for those 2027 bonds. If you go through the SRF program and it's mostly distribution system costs, you can extend that amortization out to 35 years, which would create some additional rate flexibility for you. So again, very early on in this process and not something that needs to be concerned, not something to be concerned about at this point, just kind of waiting on timing. So any questions on water? Okay. So now some better news on these other 3 utilities. Going to gas, looking on slide 17, your total fund balances total about $2.3 million, which is about $1.5 million above recommended reserves. So as you can see, you've had some pretty substantial positive cash flows over the last 2 years. And you have a ton of flexibility for additional capital projects and things like that. So the next page, page 18 or slide 18, looks at your capital plan. The one thing I want to note on here is that the capital plan only has a 5-year average of $127,000. So it is pretty light. So if there were things that were to pop up in the last couple of years, based on our cash flows, the utility would have the ability to afford those things. So we've kind of talked with the gas team about looking further out, just to kind of see what those improvements look like in years 6 through 10 instead of just 1 through 5, just to kind of get an idea of what's to come. Slide 19 looks at your 2018 bonds. You can see on there that you've got about $245,000 a year in annual debt service going through 2039, so those will be around for about 13 more years. And then slide 20, we're looking at the 5-year outlook. You can see you've got projected positive cash flows in each of the next 5 years. And what we did to estimate the future purchased gas and metered sales was we kept the same historical margin that the utilities had, which is about 52 cents for your build rate compared to your gas costs. So that's kind of what the utility's been operating on. It's what's been driving the positive cash flows. And Greg and Emily will kind of get into that here, or get into the tracker here in a few minutes. But that's kind of what you're seeing, those positive cash flows going from $2.3 million in 2025 up to $3.2 million in 2030. So part of that is that margin that you've had historically, as well as capital improvements being at a pretty low level. So ultimately what we're kind of showing down there, and what we've talked about with your gas team, is that looking at capital improvements in years 6 through 10 will be important, because obviously we don't, with the rate pressure that the other utilities of the town have, it's hard to kind of see those positive cash flows happening at that level every year. So we could look at adjusting base rates, but that's kind of dependent on what that capital plan looks like in years 6 through 10. We obviously don't want to just decrease rates for a 2-year period and then come back 2 years later and say, oh, well, now we have to increase them again, because that seems to, it doesn't go over very well. So start looking out further than the next 5 years and kind of see what's coming, then we can make a decision from there. And then the gas tracker, Emily and Greg will get into here in a few minutes. Any questions on gas? Okay. Electric starts on slide 22. You can see on the graph there that your cash balances are about $5.6 million at the end of last year, which exceed your recommended reserves by about $2.3 million. And you've had some pretty good positive cash flows over the last 2 years to further strengthen your fund balances. Slide 23 is the capital plan. You can see there at the bottom, in the bottom right, your average annual capital improvements are $880,000, so a much heavier lift as far as capital improvements go, specifically highlighted in 2028 and 2030 with some sub-bank replacements of $800,000 and $850,000. So you've got some heavy capital years coming, which, based on our estimates, you'll be able to withstand. The big driver of the electric fund is that as you can see on slide 24, your outstanding bonds will be paid off next year, which frees up about $1.1 million in cash annually. And generally, we like to say when you have bonds falling off, you're probably at the end of the useful life of some assets, and there may be some big replacements coming. So we're not saying that this is an automatic rate decrease just because you have $1.1 million of bonds falling off. It frees up additional capital, additional funds to pay for additional capital needs that may be coming. So again, kind of looking at years 6 through 10 here, seeing what the capital needs are and seeing if the user rates should be adjusted to kind of reflect those new revenue requirements. Page 25 kind of highlights what I just said. You'll see you've got pretty substantial positive cash flows in 2028 through 2030. And that's due to those bonds being paid off in 2027. So you're making a couple payments early on those bonds just to avoid some interest costs, but you've got the money sitting there in a debt service reserve fund. So you'll see a negative cash flow in 2027, basically the spend down of your reserve, and then significant positive cash flows in 28 through 2030. Again, pretty heavy positive cash flows lead you to about $8 million in cash at the end of 2030, which is about $5.9 million above recommended reserves. So again, kind of looking at what capital may be coming outside of the time frame we're looking at. Any questions on electric? Sanitation, the last fund. 2025 fund balances are continuing to rise up to $540,000 at the end of last year. But you've had positive cash flows in each of the last 2 years. You actually exceed recommended reserves by about $300,000. So overall, the sanitation utility is in really good shape financially. And the key reason for that is that the garbage truck that was purchased in 2026 had civil fund contributions of about $242,000. So that pretty significantly aided the utilities fund balances and will allow it to avoid any rate increases going forward. So those garbage trucks for a new utility are pretty substantial investments. So Bryce and I we've talked, and the plan is in place to kind of start setting aside funds for future garbage truck replacements so that you don't have to pull from civil funds. Obviously, the goal of any utility is to be kind of self-reliant on its own customer revenues, and I think the sanitation utility is working on getting there. So you'll see the primary driver of the cash flows we'll talk about here soon is 2029. We're assuming that the sanitation utility funds the full garbage truck replacement of $300,000. Sanitation does not have any debt, so we'll go to the 5-year outlook on slide 29. As you can see, there are kind of minuscule positive and negative cash flows in 26, 27, 28, and 2030. 2029 is a pretty big red. Negative cash flow, again, due to the garbage truck purchase. But as you can see in the bottom graph, even with that negative $247,000 cash flow, you're still above our recommended reserves. So the utility doesn't have any bonds outstanding. It doesn't have any requirements for fund balances. It's all recommendations. So even if you were to fall below that, you're not in any kind of legal trouble or anything like that. It's more of a try to get back above it situation. So even with that purchase, you're still staying above it. Any questions on sanitation? Okay. Last slide, looking at your combined sewer and water rates. You guys can see you're at the top end, 2027. Your current rates for 2026 are $135.97. So with the additional 12.7% in sewer next year and 8% in water, you will go up to $151.19. The key thing to note here is that we are working with several of the communities below you that are doing projects, and obviously we're looking at a certain point in time when we're doing this. So as we move forward to 27 and 28, there's other communities that will start to catch up. So just a graph for you guys to look at. And that is all I have. Do you have any questions or concerns?
So overall, the utility's looking pretty good for Rensselaer.
Yeah. Fund balances look good. Yep, they look better than they did last year and seem to be trending in the right direction. So.
Anybody have any questions for Tyler?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda, we have Greg and Emily to go from Bakertilly to go to Gas Tracker.
Hi, I'm Emily Harlow. I'm Senior Manager at Bakertilly. Just joined Bakertilly about 2 months ago, but I've been in the utility industry for about 25 plus years.
Greg Roach, I've been with Bakertilly going on my 7th month. I'm a director in utility services. I've spent about 3 decades in utilities. Emily and I have worked together for about half of that time, both in water and in gas. And in our last stop, I was the CFO of the Ohio Valley Gas Company. So we experienced some of the ups and downs that you have related to the cost of gas and how it's probably best to be tracked through a tracker. And Emily will go through the details of what we have to suggest for you.
You turn to page 3, the key takeaways. We're recommending that the gas be completed on a quarterly basis instead of monthly. Currently, your tracker is done monthly, and I know you guys want to move to more of a quarterly basis. This way you can only do, be required to do it once a quarter and have your rate set for the next quarter. Also under this, we're going to also update your over-under recovery calculation by aligning sales with purchases. And we'll go more into these within the slides. And also improve your forecasting of your future recoveries. And these follow industry standards. The industry is currently doing. So on to the tracker. What will the new tracker contain? It will contain the same schedules that you're used to, the 4 schedules, with those updates on Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. But each month will still have its unique factor, but you'll just calculate the 3 months. What's being updated on Schedule 1 is that your sales don't currently align with your gas purchases, which results in an incorrect over-under recovery calculation. Your customer billings are usually around or on the 12th and the 28th of the month, and then your purchases are based on a calendar month. So we're going to make an extra calculation on a Schedule 1A that will align those up together to use on Schedule 1.
So what happens is in periods of high gas usage, because we are out of sync between sales and gas purchases, and we use both numbers in the calculation, we tend to have high overages or underages. We're trying to even that out over a quarterly period by syncing up the 2 time periods. So right now what we see on a monthly basis is a sawtooth in the gas tracker. We're trying to even it out.
And remember, the gas tracker is just your gas cost, the gas cost that you're trying to pass on to your customers. Is there a true-up needed to change this to this new calculation? I did go back and calculate the last 12 months using this new method, and right now what needs refund is about $47,000 of over recovery. So that would be then baked into the new rates on that. So how should we refund those over and under collections? I did an analysis of 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. And what I'm finding is, just like most natural gas companies, in the summer months you don't sell a lot of gas because there's no heating. And a 12-month average, if you would refund your overages over the next 12 months after you calculate it, helps even them and flow that out. So you'll still be collecting revenue over the summer months. Because if you had a significant over or under recovery, you could possibly, either double charge customers in the summer or actually even have a negative tracker rate. So that is the over-under recovery on the Schedule 1. Schedule 2 is where your calculation is for your next, your tracker rate. Currently, what you're using prior month sales to calculate future months. A good example is right now you're using March to calculate May sales. We know in March you've got a lot of heating customers. May you don't. And so this here, the new calculation, we'll take each month and use a 3-year forecast, historic average of that month. So 3 years of May, last 3 years of May, to come up with what we think your usage should be. And then we would, since you're buying most of your gas on the spot market, we'll go out there and we'll use the forecasting from the Henry Hub, which is the gas market rate for that month, to come up with what we expect your purchases will be that month.
So again, we're trying to align purchase periods, for gas purchase periods with gas sales periods. So if we use volumes from March, to use Emily's example, And we used those to calculate a tracker, and they were already off because the unit volumes should be different, right?
And the pricing will be different also, so you're already off using those type of forecasts. Okay. So on slide 10, what happens if we get a significant change during a quarter? If we calculate this at the beginning of the quarter, what happens if we're 1 month in and something happens in the world? We saw that with the Ukraine war. Gas prices just spiked after that war. What we can do is, even though we do this on a quarterly basis, we would do a one-off recalculation of those future months that are still left in the tracker. We can, as I said, do a one-time mid-month or mid-tracker adjustment. So don't think that the rates have to be set. You know, if there is something that happens in the market, we could always come back and recalculate those rates for those other 2 months or month. Are there any other natural best practices that were baked into this? Currently, all your gas is being purchased on the spot market. A lot of companies and utilities will go out and enter into fixed contracts for a period of time to help lower their cost. Or they also utilize gas storage, where you buy gas in a lower month, like summer, and then you would use that gas in the winter to your customers. And you would put it into storage either through your provider or another method. So,
And be clear, the storage we're talking about is to you virtual storage. It's storage that's actually on the pipeline. So it allows you to buy volumes of gas in the summer when it's cheaper, correct? And fill this virtual storage on the pipeline, and then when it's needed, that gas then flows back to you in January, February, and March, lowering the cost of your gas during the period when you're consuming the most.
So this tracker, this quarterly tracker will have that capability if you decide to look into those methods of trying to help lower your gas costs to the consumers.
So, question. So just say that quarter, you can go back to just 3 years in each of those months.
Yes.
And figure out
Volumes.
the volumes. And the advantages of buying gas in the summertime, virtual gas, the cost is down.
Yes.
But you'll be able.
Presuming there's not a war.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. But assuming that will help us balance out everything per se a little bit better during the whole year.
Not only balance it out, it would actually allow you to provide gas to your customers cheaper than what you're currently able to do it by buying all spot market gas. So think of it this way. If this is my spot market price in January, right? We would suggest to you, we have some fixed contracts and when you have a fixed contract, you're buying certain volumes over a certain period of time. You're saying, we will buy in these months this amount of gas from you for the next blah, blah, blah years, whatever the contract is. So the base amount would be that. Then you would have your storage that comes back to you because you put it in the summer, and then there's your storage, and then the rest is spot market.
Right.
And those first 2 blocks are significantly cheaper than that top block. So in all, when you average them together, it's cheaper than what the current environment is. Does that make sense?
That's about it. So that means it's less cost to our.
That means you can lower your cost to your citizens, yes.
And that is built into this new quarterly tracker of what method you buy gas, whether it's from the spot market, pull it in or out of storage, or a contract.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, please.
We already do that.
That's what I was gonna ask.
We already do it. It's already all in there.
We don't buy on spot market year round,
We have
right?
gas that's already hedged each month that he buys. that we already have, and we have contracts where we can get it so much at a cheaper rate than what is already on the market. And then once that gas is hedged that's used, then that's when we're at the mercy of what the market is. So we already have this in place.
Do you have storage?
No, because we are not, I mean, we buy so much that's already on the market for him. He's already looking months ahead of what that they're projecting, and then he goes in and buys. Now granted, you are going to take that chance of sometimes you're going to be, you're going to lose, and then sometimes you're going to be ahead. But now every month, this is what we already have in place right now. The only thing that's difference is the monthly tracker to the quarter. So, I mean, like, we just did a discount program that we just went through a bunch of stuff, and we just re-upped with them and everything else that we're doing right now.
Awesome. Okay.
So,
I got a question. Did you talk to the engineers, the gas engineers, that purchased the gas?
We didn't talk to the purchasers, no.
We were just looking at the invoices, and the way that they were presented did not look like we were doing that.
Yep.
Because I think they've been dealing with the same company for a lot of years.
Yeah, we're familiar with that company because the company we used to work for also uses them as the marketer.
but I do think that we do have to do quarterly, because I think that it is starting to be regulated in Indiana that utilities have to go quarterly with that. So, I mean, I don't think we have, and whether I wanted to stay monthly or not, I don't think we have that option. But what I figured, well, I found out today. So,
and I'm going right back to the consumer. If we can lower their costs, I know we just went through that. To me, that's the most important thing if we want to afford it. I just, listening to your presentation that we almost did, and that's just ringing in my head. How can we lower the cost for the people who are using gas?
Well, this particular tracker mechanism by itself won't lower costs, but it will keep the cost at a more steady amount, so that you won't have these changes that the utility in Bakertilly has struggled with basically for most of this year because of the spike in the price of gas. And go ahead, you can go ahead and finish, because your next piece we'll probably want to talk about too.
Should any piece of the natural gas cost be included into rates on slide 12? We don't think that any of that should be baked into the base rate. But what we're seeing right now is because the tracker rate is negative, is because when the base rates were set, gas prices were at a high point. And so you had a high point in your base rate, and the tracker should be all the gas cost itself. It shouldn't be the difference between what's in base and what the actual cost is.
Remember Tyler was talking about how the margin on your gas sales is about 52 cents. You remember him saying that when we talked about the gas utility? So typically what you would see is the base rates would contain all the costs that it takes to operate the utility, and that would be what's in base rates. And then on top of that, the tracker then would have all of the gas costs in it. Because in the situation we're in right now, because of the price of the gas that was included when they calculated the base rates that are currently in effect, gas prices are significantly lower than that. So that's why we have typically seen, from a month-to-month basis, wars not included, that we've had a negative tracker because of the cost of gas that's in your base rates. So our proposal to go along with this new tracker mechanism would be to try and extract out of the current base rates the gas cost that's included in the tracker.
So what would be the next steps on slide 14? We'd like to review the gas strategies, looking at the fixed and the contracts and the storage to help mitigate the higher prices that you've seen. Review the base rates and possibly remove those the gas costs out of the base rates that we just talked about. And then we also noticed that your ordinance will probably need to be updated because it talks about a monthly, it being calculated monthly and would need to be updated to quarterly.
That may require some legal input too, because it does say that it should be adjusted monthly, which the tracker will have a different tracking factor each month, but it's going to be adopted quarterly. So I don't know if legally if they need to update it or not.
Okay, yeah, something to look into for sure.
Yeah. So that will need to be looked at. Do you guys have any questions?
That the gas goes up a whole lot, I think we're pretty good. How do we adjust to that? Just hang on.
Yeah, you just have to hang on at that point.
Yeah.
That's why you try to.
You don't know what's going to be.
Right, that's why you try to work on fixed contracts and you work on storage. That can help mitigate those spikes, so you're not buying everything on the spot market for the current month.
One thing to consider, Russ, in wars notwithstanding, so we'll put that aside,
Yeah.
okay? Normal market environment. Since we're going to be doing an estimate forward of what future gas prices are going to be as part of this tracker mechanism, we'll be able to have the input of gas marketer that the city uses. We'll be able to have our own sources of estimates of forward-looking prices, and we'll be able to take that into consideration. And that takes into normal supply and demand situations. But again, that doesn't mitigate sudden shocks.
Just like we had in February, correct, the weather.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Right. If most of the country is below zero for a week or two, prices are going to go up. We have no, yeah, and your customers are going to be using more.
Yeah.
And that's just, we all just have to ride the roller coaster at that point.
Hey, question, Todd.
yes.
So basically, you think the state can go to the quarterly anyway?
I think so, by what I was reading today, that we're gonna have to, like if not, eventually. I mean, my only biggest worry about it is if we have, okay, you set it for 4 months, and then we don't have weather's normal. Then we get 3 months in a row to where weather's like what we had in February, and we had that huge bill, and then we get another huge bill, and then we get another huge bill. And we won't be able to sustain that.
And that's why I put in here, if we
Right.
need to mid-quarter,
But
We
if
can
you
go
do
back
it
and
more than,
recalculate.
but if it's more than 1 month though,
Right.
we're not gonna sustain. Because and then we will not be able to sustain if we pass on for, like what we did this time, rates for a year. Like, there's no way we'll sustain it, no way. Because because people only use gas for the majority of those 4 months. That is the main time that we're not profit, but we need to sustain with where we're at. And like, it's very minimal during the rest of that time.
and that's another reason why we recommend the over-under recovery over the 12 months. And then we'll weight it based upon the sales. So if customers are due a big refund because we've overcharged them because gas was low, it's spread over 12 months, and most of that refund's going to be happening in the winter months when sales are going to be up. So it kind of helps out. So your cash flow is a little bit more steady with the.
Another thing to mitigate your concern, which I can feel for as a former CFO, I feel for you. You could start by making sure that the GCA fund itself has appropriate fund balance to be able to handle any of these ups and downs and get you through a certain period.
Which is very true. But we had the largest bill we've ever had in the history of the gas department, and that was just for that 1 month.
I understand. I was there, yeah, so I remember.
So yeah, no, that's just,
Right.
and we survived that one, and we got back, but I just know that.
I just want to lots of money.
Yeah, and that was something that I was actually going to add is just having excess fund balances and funds that have fluctuating costs is more important, gas and electric specifically, where your trackers can go up and down and you can have spikes in months where your rates just aren't sufficient. So when I say that you have a good amount of cash built up, that's not a bad
Yeah.
thing. Like gas utilities with fluctuating rates really should have some excess cash, more than what sewer and water utilities have, where the revenue streams are a little bit more predictable, so.
So this
And
may
it
be
is-
a dumb question, but if we would pass a quarterly tracker, then what quarter does that start in?
You can start at any quarter. And here, and in the appendix of this presentation, you'll see the 3 schedules, or the 4 schedules. So really, they're not going to line up the same months. So this is based upon a July, when you're calculating rates for July, you'll be reconciling February, March, and April, because you have to have April fully billed, because part of April usage is not billed until May. So you'll be preparing this, and you will have 3 months that you'll reconcile on Schedule 1. Schedule 2, which is page 618, you'll see the 3 months that we are calculating the tracker on. And this here, in line 4, the variances for your over-under, this is based upon that $47,000 that we currently owe back to the customer. And you can see right now for this quarter, you would only be giving back $3,000 of that, and you'll just continue to give that back over the next 12 months. And then 19 is your schedule of rates. This is what, with this new forecasting. And then your schedule 4 is, you can see how the variance of the different rates, how they move up and down. It's very similar to the same 4 schedules that you currently have.
So you'd be looking at starting this in July.
You can start it in July if you want to start your quarters, August, September, burn October, we can do that too. This model is made to start any month. Whatever 3 months you want to do, you start a quarter on. It doesn't have to start on the calendar quarter.
Correct.
But you'll reconcile the most recent months, and then, that you have data for, which will be still a few months, about a month or 2 behind.
Anybody have any questions? The mayor would like us to make a decision though, this evening if we could, on whether we want to go with the quarterly tracker. I realize we have to do an ordinance. We have to pass that at the meeting, at the next meeting possibly. But
I think, I'm gonna make the motion to go to the quarterly tracker. I like the consistency that we're talking about. So,
I think it would be more
I think
beneficial
it's more
for our
beneficial.
ratepayers, for sure. Okay, so, yes, moving forward with the quarterly tracker, we have a first and a second. Do we need to specify when to start that, or?
I would probably not.
Not? Okay. All right, so we have a first and second motion to transfer over to a quarterly gas tracker from a monthly gas tracker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We did not start a date, start.
Not yet, because it's going to be, we'll have to do an ordinance and pass the details. Okay, we're going to go, next on the agenda is the claims approval. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did forget to add that to the agenda. If you would like to add it, that would be great. Or we can do it next month.
Quick passing, quick statement.
Yeah.
We do it with
Forgot to
claims?
send it in. Sure. Make a motion to claims and credit card.
Is that okay?
What's the motion?
If we add credit card claims to this as well?
Okay,
You know what the claims, it wasn't added on.
I think it's better done.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion to approve the claims and the credit card statement.
I make a motion to do the credit card statement.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. Okay. Is there any unfinished business? Okay, we'll go on and no committee reports. I don't think we have any committees going at the moment. Administrative comments. I'll start with you, Jeff.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, Ernest?
Yes, I like the idea of us trying to stay ahead of stuff. I think in the past where we put ourselves behind the 8 ball by not looking forward, and I like the way we're going that way. So let's keep going that way.
Think ahead, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Kevin?
Bryce, are you gonna talk about street paving, timing? Okay, then I don't have any,
Okay.
I'll let him do the report.
And the only thing I want to say too is just after Ernest is, yes, I love the utility reports, the budgeting, and it just really helps to see the big picture, helps all of us, so that everybody's on the same page, so I really think that's great. So thank you, keep that up, it's good work. I know it's a lot of work, but it's a good thing. And we'll go into superintendent reports. Attorney Salmon, do you have anything for us?
Nothing specific to report.
Okay. Heather?
Thanks, Noah. I have nothing this evening.
Jacob?
I have nothing to report.
You guys are making up, aren't you? Chief On.
Thank you. Fire department's getting ready for their annual boot drive in July, and we've started to drain and, lost my train of thought, lubricate pumps for pump testing is going to also happen in July for recertification of all the trucks. Other than that, things are going normal.
Good. What's the dates of your boot drive, do you know?
July 11th.
Oh, it's one day?
Yep. You want me to do multiple days? We can.
No, I wasn't sure.
July 11th from 8 to 11.
One day dancing at the intersections. I like it. Okay, Keith, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, wanted to let everybody know that last Friday we had a couple guys go to Covington for mutual aid. They seemed very appreciative of that, had a lot of storm damage.
Good.
Bradley Northcutt successfully passed his climbing school. He did very well, so now he is a first-year apprentice. That's going well. We are getting quotes to do the brickwork at the light plant right now. We've got one quote and have 2 people showing up tomorrow to give us quotes on that, so we will be presenting that in the near future.
That's the tough one.
Mm-hmm. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Bryce?
Thank you. Yes, CCMG, the concrete removal started on Friday on Weston Street. They will be transitioning over to Van Rensselaer here by the post office. And then the rest of Front Street, we are still waiting on the NDOT approval to get the Washington portion there done by Embers. The paving itself, College Avenue, they're going to try to do Warner, and Cannell are all scheduled. They'll be scheduled to have a mill here on Thursday. So they said that bare minimum, College will be open for the 4th of July festivities for America 250. So progress is continuing there. H3 had to leave to do another job, so they're to be back here this week. So you'll start to see more concrete forming taking place on those areas that they started tearing out late last week. Wastewater project, the 1,000-yard concrete pour went as expected. They did meet their average of 100 yards per hour. They got done in about 10.5 hours, 10 p.m. to 8:30 in the morning. Then semi-loads of rebar showed up, so they're starting to tie walls for the oxidation ditch. and anticipate to pour the last two walls on the clarifier this week, weather depending. And then on the I-65 project, restoration is going to be wrapping up, and then punch list items are scheduled to begin on Thursday of this week as well. From our side of things, Caleb did pass his final exam for his wastewater apprenticeship. So he will go through a graduation ceremony in October at the fall conference. He has also successfully passed his Class 3. He's waiting on his time working at a Class 3 plant before he gets his license issued. He's tracking that and communicating that to IDEM. And then on East Washington Street, also on Thursday. Thursday's going to be a busy day. We have 2 valve insertions scheduled. You might have seen this out there over the last week or so. It's a oddball ID, or OD, on the water main that's in there. So they had to order some special gaskets for that, so they'll be back Thursday to get those cut in. There's a section of main in there, about 3 foot long, that has 6 corps in it. And it's only a matter of time before that becomes an issue.
We're out on East Washington.
Right in the front of Rural Auto. There's 2 patches and then the one in the middle. That was one that Atlas was scheduled to do, and then the morning they opened it up, they called us up there. And that's a main, arterial main from the water plant to the tower, so if something was to go wrong there, there'd be a lot of customers affected as far as how much we have to shut down. Other than that, we did get word last week that sounds like July the 6th, Rex Construction will be mobilizing into town to begin lead services. And we're sitting at right around 180 services that they will be getting done for us this summer. I believe that is all I have this evening.
Is that out of town team can help out of the lead services or what?
They're out of the Cherville area.
Really? Yep. Okay. Get it done faster, I guess.
Hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you. I heard all those cement trucks
Yeah.
during the night.
You know they're working.
I did. And I just stared out my window in the dark, and I could eventually see their headlights clear out in the woods out there. It's kind of cool. It was cool, though.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's good. Progress is good. Heather, do you have anything for us?
I do. Our City America 250 event is being planned for July 3rd. We'll start at Milroy Park at 3 p.m. with some festivities there. Our golf cart parade has changed slightly. It's going to start with the golf cart roundup at Filson Park. We'll have some decorating and some judging of the golf carts, and then we'll process to Brookside Park. Thursdays, we had our second of those last week. It was very well received and very well attended. Our next one is being planned for July 16th with the Party in the USA theme. We're going to have touch-a-track and things like that for kids. So I think that is an event that is probably one of my favorite things that we've tried so far in the parks. And again, it's really catching on, and we'll continue on with that through October. Our last week of summer camps at the Hyper Center is happening right now. We installed the furnishings at the south end of Brookside where the trailhead is going in, thanks to some help from the street department. And our Filson restroom floors have been epoxied. So that's a nice improvement. We're trying to upgrade that facility, you know, as a kind of a welcome center, especially with it being a Greyhound bus station. So that's my update for tonight. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Todd, go ahead.
Thank you. I have USDI coming in next week. We're going to insert a valve on Front Street that will just be able to shut down the alley behind City Hall and everything else like that. Thank God if something happens. Sorry, Kenny. And then we have 2 valves that are leaking and we cannot get stopped, so we're going to get those replaced. And then those are over by the clinic. And then we have just the guys that are putting in service lines. That's every day. So,
The valves over here, this
it's gonna
time,
be,
or out there?
It'll be, let me get my bearings straight. Yeah, it'll be right over here. It'll be right over here on Front Street.
Okay.
So we're going to insert one in there, and then, like I said, those other 2, we've tried and we can't. So we're just going to replace them.
Thank you, Todd. Joe, you're...
Thank you. I have nothing for council. we've just been trying to keep things caught up, along with, we've had several burials here in the last couple weeks, and we've got a couple coming up that are cremains. We're going to set the flags up start next week down Buckham Road for the 4th of July weekend, so we're working on that, and we've added some new ones, so.
Anybody else have anything? Carol, Jerry? No? Just a reminder that it's Mural Week coming up, and Paint the Towns is June 27th, I believe, right? Hilson Park, also, that's this week.
Yeah, I think it is.
Awesome, okay. Anybody else have anything?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Second. Motion is second to adjourn. All those in